There is something almost sacred about a person who knows how to be quiet. Not the quiet of someone who has nothing to say, but the quiet of someone who has everything to say and chooses, deliberately, purposefully, to say nothing. That kind of silence is not weakness. That kind of silence is one of the most misunderstood and underestimated forms of power that exists in this world. We have been conditioned from the time we were children sitting in classrooms to the time we became adults sitting in boardrooms, to believe that the person who speaks the most is the person who knows the most. The one who fills the silence is the one who leads the room. That volume equals value. That noise equals knowledge. And so we talk, we over-explain, we justify, we defend, we argue, we perform, we announce. And in doing all of that, we give away something far more precious than we realize. We give away our power. Think about every truly powerful person you have ever encountered in your life. Not the ones who seemed powerful. Not the ones who told you they were powerful. But the ones who made you feel it the moment they walked in. What did they have in common? They weren't the ones talking over everyone else. They weren't the ones desperate to fill every pause in the conversation. They carried a stillness with them, a calm, a quiet confidence that didn't need your validation, didn't need your applause, and certainly didn't need your agreement. They were comfortable in the silence, and that comfort made everyone around them just a little bit uncomfortable. And that is power. Silence forces the other person to think. When you stop reacting, when you stop defending, when you simply hold your ground without a single word, you create a pressure that no amount of shouting can manufacture. People reveal themselves in silence. They get nervous. They start to fill the space with their own insecurities, their own doubts, their own need to be heard. And while they are busy doing that, you are watching. You are learning. You are seeing them clearly, completely, for exactly who they are. The person who controls the silence controls the conversation. Always. There is also something deeply spiritual about this truth. Every great tradition, every ancient philosophy, every wisdom passed down through generations has pointed to the same thing. That clarity does not come from noise. It comes from stillness. The answers you are desperately searching for will not find you while you are talking. They will find you in the quiet moments, in the early morning before the world wakes up, in the pause between one thought and the next, in the space you create when you finally stop filling every moment with sound and simply allow yourself to be still. Your instincts live in that silence. Your wisdom lives in that silence. The best version of who you are, the sharpest, the most focused, the most grounded, lives in that silence. And then there is this, and I want you to sit with this for a moment. When you are truly at peace with who you are, when you genuinely believe in what you are building, when you know your worth down to the very core of your bones, you will not feel the need to convince anyone of it. Confidence does not beg to be recognized. Confidence does not raise its voice to be taken seriously. Real confidence walks into a room and lets its presence do the talking, lets its track record do the explaining, and lets time, patient, relentless, honest time, do all the proving that ever needed to be done. There is a truth that most people spend their entire lives running from, and it is this: the moment you feel the need to convince someone of your worth, you have already begun to lose because you are not worthy, not because you do not have something real and valuable to offer, but because that desperate, clawing, urgent need to be seen, to be validated, to be acknowledged, to be believed, radiates off of you like heat. And everyone in the room can feel it, even when they cannot name it. Desperation has a sound. It sounds like someone talking too much, too fast, too loud. It sounds like a person who interrupts because they are terrified the conversation will move on without them. It sounds like bragging dressed up as confidence, like anger dressed up as passion, like insecurity dressed up as ambition. We have all heard it. We have all, at some point in our lives, if we are honest enough with ourselves to admit it, been it. And looking back, we can see clearly what we could not see in the moment. That the louder we got, the less people listened. That the harder we pushed, the more resistance we created. That the more desperately we reached for respect, the further it moved away from us. Here is what nobody wants to tell you about confidence. Real confidence. The kind that is bone, deep and unshakable. It is almost always quiet. It does not need an audience. It does not need a co-signer. It does not need someone to look across the room and nod in agreement before it can stand firm in what it believes. Genuine confidence is built in the private moments, in the work you do when no one is watching, in the promises you make to yourself and actually keep, in the discipline you maintain, even when it would be so much easier to quit. That is where real confidence is forged. And people who have been through that fire, people who have built themselves from the inside out, they carry a different kind of energy, a settled energy, a knowing. And you cannot fake that. No amount of volume, no amount of performance, no amount of noise will ever replicate what that quiet inner certainty feels like to the people around you. The loud ones, the ones who dominate every conversation, who make sure their opinion is the first and last word on every subject, who mistake aggression for authority. They are not operating from a place of strength. They are operating from a place of fear. Fear that if they stop talking, they will be forgotten. Fear that if they let someone else shine, there will not be enough light left for them. Fear that the silence will reveal something about them they have worked very hard to hide, that beneath all that noise, they are not entirely sure of themselves. And so they keep talking, they keep performing, they keep being loud, because loud feels like control, even when it is the furthest thing from it. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who does not need to win the argument, the one who can sit with uncertainty and not flinch, the one who can absorb criticism without crumbling and praise, without losing their footing, the one who knows that their value is not determined by whether or not someone else recognizes it today, because they understand something that the loud, the desperate, the endlessly performing have not yet figured out, that the people who are truly sure where they are going never feel the need to announce the destination to everyone they meet along the way. There is a particular kind of person that every single one of us has encountered at some point in our lives. They walk into the room, and within 5 minutes, you know everything they have ever accomplished, every goal they are chasing, every dream they are building, every obstacle they have overcome. They talk about their vision with a fire that almost makes you believe it. They speak about their future with a certainty that almost sounds like a plan. And for a moment, just a moment, you find yourself leaning in, nodding along, almost inspired. And then time passes, weeks, months, sometimes years. And you look up one day and realize that everything is exactly the same as it was the last time you saw them. The dream is still a dream. The plan is still just words. The fire turned out to be nothing more than smoke. We live in an age that has made it dangerously easy to confuse talking about a thing with actually doing a thing. Social media has built entire empires on the currency of announcement. We post before we begin. We celebrate before we finish. We seek validation for the journey before we have taken a single step. And in doing so, we have created a generation of people who are extraordinarily skilled at describing the life they want and extraordinarily uncomfortable with the silent, unglamorous, deeply unsexy work that it actually takes to build it. Because that work, the real work, the kind that changes you, the kind that costs you something, that work does not photograph well. It does not fit neatly into a caption. It happens in the dark, alone, when the motivation has long since faded, and all you have left is the decision you made to keep going. Your actions are speaking right now. Every single day, whether you open your mouth or not, your life is making a statement. The way you spend your mornings is saying something. The way you treat the people who cannot do anything for you is saying something. The habits you maintain when no one is holding you accountable, the standards you keep when no one is watching, the integrity you protect when compromising would be so much easier. All of it is speaking loudly, clearly, honestly. And the world, the people who matter, the opportunities that are meant for you, the doors that are waiting to be opened, they are not listening to what you say you are. They are watching what you prove yourself to be, day after day, through the accumulated weight of your choices. History does not remember the talkers. Read it carefully enough, and you will notice that the people who changed things, who built things, who left something behind that outlasted their own lifetime, they were not the loudest voices of their era. They were the most committed. They were the ones who showed up when others made excuses. The ones who refined their craft while others debated theirs. The ones who stayed in the room long after everyone else had gone home. Not because someone was watching, not because someone was applauding, but because they had made a covenant with themselves that they intended to honor. There is a reason we still talk about certain people generations after they are gone. It is not because of what they promised. It is not because of what they declared or announced or projected. It is because of what they did, because of the weight and the substance and the undeniable reality of what they actually built with their hands, their minds, their sacrifice. Words dissolve, announcements fade, promises are forgotten, but work, real, honest, relentless, unglamorous work, that endures. There is a war going on inside every single person who has ever decided they wanted something more out of their life. Not the kind of war that makes the news. Not the kind that anyone else can see or fully understand. But a deeply personal, daily, grinding war between the person you are right now and the person you know, deep down, in the most honest part of yourself, that you are capable of becoming. And the outcome of that war is not decided in the big dramatic moments. It is not decided in the speeches or the breakthroughs or the highlight reel moments that you will one day tell people about. It is decided in the quiet, ordinary, unglamorous moments when everything in you wants to stop and you choose to keep going. We have romanticized struggle in a way that has done us enormous damage. We love the comeback story. We love the moment of triumph. We love the scene in the movie where the music swells and the character rises and everything that was broken suddenly comes together in one beautiful, cinematic instant. And because we love that moment so much, we have started to believe that the path to greatness is supposed to look and feel like that. Dramatic, emotional, loud. And so when the real path reveals itself, when it turns out to be repetitive and quiet and deeply resistant to being turned into a story worth telling, we grow restless. We manufacture crisis. We create drama, because drama, at least, feels like something is happening. Drama, at least, gives us the sensation of movement, even when we are standing perfectly still. But discipline does not care about your feelings. Discipline does not negotiate with your mood. Discipline does not wait for the right conditions, the right circumstances, the right level of motivation to show up before it gets to work. Discipline is the decision you make before the day begins, before the resistance arrives, before the excuses line themselves up so neatly and reasonably that they almost sound like wisdom. It is the alarm clock you answer when your body is begging you for more time. It is the standard you hold yourself to when no contract, no audience, no external consequence exists to enforce it. It is the promise you make to the future version of yourself and the integrity with which you keep it every single day, whether you feel like it or not. The people who built something real, something lasting, something that actually mattered, they were not the ones who burned the brightest in the short term. They were the ones who burned the longest. They were the ones who understood that greatness is not a single act of extraordinary courage, but 10,000 acts of ordinary discipline repeated across years and decades until the results become undeniable. They did not need the drama of a crisis to motivate them. They did not need chaos to feel alive. They had something far more reliable, far more sustainable, far more powerful than motivation. They had a system, a routine, a set of non-negotiable standards that they returned to every single morning, regardless of how the night before had gone. And here is what that kind of discipline produces over time that all the noise and drama in the world never could. It produces a person who is unshakable, a person who has been tested not by one great trial, but by the accumulation of 1,000 small ones, and who has passed each one not with a roar, but with a quiet, steady, immovable commitment to becoming exactly who they decided to be long before anyone else believed it was possible. There is a moment that happens in every room, in every meeting, in every gathering of human beings that most people are too busy performing to ever actually witness. It is the moment when the noise settles, when the competing voices pause for just a breath, and every set of eyes in that room, almost involuntarily, almost unconsciously, moves to the same person. Not the person who has been talking the loudest, not the person who has been most aggressively asserting their presence, but the one who has been sitting in their own quiet, unmovable certainty this entire time. the one whose stillness somehow managed to fill more space than all the noise combined. That moment is not an accident. That moment is the result of something that was being built long before anyone walked through that door. People are far more perceptive than we give them credit for. We walk through the world assuming that others are too consumed by their own concerns, their own ambitions, their own interior noise to pay attention to us. And in many ways that is true. But what people may miss in the details, they never miss in the energy. They feel it before they understand it. They sense it before they can articulate it. Walk into a room carrying genuine confidence, the kind that has been earned through sacrifice and sustained through discipline. And people will feel that before you open your mouth. Walk into that same room carrying anxiety dressed up as aggression, or insecurity performing as authority, and they will feel that too. The room always knows. The room always notices. It simply does not always say so out loud. This is why the loudest person almost never leaves the deepest impression, because volume is surface. Volume is the first layer, the most accessible layer, the layer that hits you immediately and then fades just as fast. But presence, real, substantive, grounded human presence, that goes deeper, that reaches past the noise of the moment and settles into something more permanent in the minds and hearts of the people who experience it. We remember how people made us feel long after we have forgotten every word they said. And the people who make us feel the most are rarely the ones who said the most. They are the ones who were the most real, the most grounded, the most entirely and unapologetically themselves in a world that is constantly pressuring everyone to perform. Think about the leaders who have moved you most deeply in your life. The teachers, the mentors, the figures in your personal life or in history who made you want to be better simply by the way they carried themselves. What was it about them that reached you? It was not the volume of their voice. It was the weight of it. It was the sense that every word they chose to speak had been considered, had been measured, had been deemed worthy of the silence it was breaking. It was the understanding that they were not speaking to hear themselves, but because they genuinely had something to give. And that intention, that selfless, purposeful, deeply human intention, is something that no amount of rehearsal can manufacture and no amount of noise can replicate. Your reputation is being written right now, not by what you are announcing, not by what you are claiming, not by what you are insisting people see in you, but by the quiet, consistent, daily accumulation of who you actually are. When the pressure is real, when the stakes are high, when it would be so much easier to be something less than your best self, and nobody would even blame you for it. The room is always watching. The room is always measuring. And one day, in one of those rooms, in one of those moments when the noise finally settles, every eye will find you.